What's up, everyone? Carmen here with Pittsburgh White Schwartz coming at you with another deck tech. Today I'm joined by Paru.
Hello.
And today we're going to go over D-Side Traumerai? Is that how you say it?
I think so.
Okay. We're going to be talking about a pretty cool deck. It is not the same Choice Pants or 8 Pants Rando deck that you have seen all over Twitter by now. If you follow any of the White Schwartz aggregate lists or look at Kevin's blog post every week or things like that of what is topping in Japan, it is pretty different. It is 6 choice and 2 bar. This deck was written about a little bit by one Japanese player right around the time that Paru and I were testing the Jessica engine anyway. And we figured we'd try it the 6 choice. And it's pretty cool and it's worth talking about. We won't hunt you down if you decide to play the 4 bar variant. It's pretty easy to switch into if you don't like the weird climax lineup. But you don't lose a lot and you gain quite a bit for adding in those 2 extra choices. So here is the deck list. As always, if you're just here for the list, we always have the Encore decks link in the description. Leave us a like on the way out. That really helps us out. Any comments before we jump right into it, card by card, Paru? Think it's pretty standard for like what you expect to see from D-Side. Like we're playing all the good cards in like a lot of amount.
I think that I don't think there's anything like crazy here just looking at it glance. If you already know what all the cards do in D-Side, you're probably like, oh, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, if I were going to play Jessica, this would be how we'd do it, right? So
yeah.
Okay, let's just jump into the cards one by one. So one of the big things with D-Side is their level 0 like beater like lineup is like absolute garbage to the point where some decks playing green play the like PR 4K. So to sort of shore that up, we're just going to max out on 4 Furies, because if we have 5 or more cards in hand, it's a 3K. So it's like sort of doubling as a slightly smaller beater, but then giving us a bunch of mill power. And we got a lot of cards that we want to get into our grave in the early game so that we can send them to memory and do stuff with them. So having that is pretty nice as an upside for just slamming 4 Fury, both as like a beater and just running extra utility. It also has a really cool interaction with another level 0 that we'll see coming up, which is like the main reason why and I wanted to try this shell in the first place. So we can just move on. We'll talk about it when we get to it. 4 of the Eru Brainstorm. This card is absolutely ridiculous. On play, you marker any character from your waiting room, put it face down underneath this marker. Whenever a character on your stage swaps with a character in memory, so in this deck, that's going to be the Aria here that can swap between this card and the Adachi and swap back. You take that marker underneath it and put it into stock. That makes this Adachi that you're summoning, it's already costless, stock charge you one. It also gives you like free compression over deck if you slam these card down as like a shitter or something like that, as well as just being a self-tap salvage brainstorm. I think if you're playing D-Side, you're playing D-Side for this card and you want to play 4 copies. It's pretty noticeable. I was playing 3 at the beginning. I was thinking, oh, it's any other brainstorm, but it's actually so broken that I think you slam 4 copies of pretty much every list.
It's pretty crazy that you can kind of just spend your stock willy-nilly in the early game and then play down 2 or 3 of these things. Play down your Aria. All of a sudden, you haven't lost any stock. And, with 6 choice triggers, you have so many more opportunities to get more.
Yeah, it gets pretty nutty.
It is actually just so powerful.
You just get free stock, like, all the time, this card. It's really crazy, especially when you're playing the Adachi instead of the Eru, because you want to slam that basically every turn. I guess with the Eru, you want to do that as well, but, like, the Adachi, especially into the current meta, just blows everything up. I think you definitely want to be on Adachi, especially in, like, the Western JP meta, where people are playing, like, stuff that's also popular in English, like Hololive or Mishoku. Alright, moving on to other level 0s, we're playing 3 of the free runner. It can also pay 1, send itself to memory, check top 3 at a character. So we need to hit a memory threshold. It's a very small memory threshold, meaning you have any 2 cards in memory. They don't need to be different cards. They just need to be cards in memory, 2 total cards. So having a proactive memory that also gives us a little bit of extra deck speed is always nice. And we have the space for it because we are not playing the very big and bloated rando package that requires a ton of different cards. So we have space for this objectively really strong card. So we're going to play 3 copies of it as our additional, quote unquote plussing slot, like 4 Cheery, 3 of this. Tried playing it the other way around, but the Cheery ended up being more important. Again, we'll get to that when we get to the other level 0. Any other comments, Paru? I think this card's like really strong, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty strong, but it's pretty easy to just like look at this at face value and be like, oh, okay. It's a plussing 0 that goes to memory, turns into one of the 3 cards off the top.
Yeah, just
I mean, this card was on the ban list in Psychono.
Still is?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyone who's played with or against Psychono knows how like strong this profile is.
And I mean, D-side overall for zeros, you're pretty stretched for which ones are good, which is why you see the same zeros maxed out at 3-4 count in every deck, because the selection's pretty lacking there. We are also going to play 3 of the Mugen Ricky. He's smoking, that's how you can tell that he's cool. On play, he gains 1500 power, so he does have some good power for you to get over your opponent's cards, or at least challenge lanes. You can like throw down 3 35s or something with our Global 5 that we'll see in a little bit here. To have like a 4K and a 35 lane, so you can contest your opponent's center runner or something like that. Then he has On Death, pay 1, clock top, salvage, and knocker up character. In our deck, every character is a knocker up, so we'll never have that come up. That can come up in the rando deck, and it's actually really annoying when it does, because some cards are like only island trade.
That deck plays like 5 characters that are not knocker up.
Aki, notably, is not a knocker up.
And Trish or Triss.
Yeah, Triss are not knocker up trade. But in this deck, it is just Ricky for any character, and we can use it later in the game if we need to grab a card, so pretty nice.
Throwing this thing down, like if you go second and you open like 2 of these and Chieri, you can actually just dump your entire hand turn 1 and like rush your opponent really hard.
Because you don't really want to be at 0 very long either.
Yeah. So. Super effective against stuff like Mishoku or Quince, like you just don't give them any opportunity to set up.
Yeah,
and then you get to bomb whatever they put out once you hit level 1.
Yeah, so it plays really well into that.
You can really just bully like those decks that rely on early field advantage.
Yeah, because you just puke your whole hand, get it back, and get some mill if you have Chieri as well.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the best card. So this is the main reason why I personally wanted to play the Jessica deck, and I got Paru on the train too pretty early, and then we saw the article that the one guy made. There was just like, oh, this card's pretty sick too. It was like, okay, we're not crazy. This card is good. So what this card is a global 5, and then it has an active ability where you can discard the 3/2 Jessica finisher and search your deck for any knocker up character, which again, in this deck, any card in our deck. So what this does if you open it is basically give every single card in your deck a +4 count on top. Because our Chieri grabs level 1 or higher, this card makes it so that we can grab Jessica's off our Chieri and then tap this down on the following turn to search an additional level 0, making our Chieri like a 0.5 closer. Give it the 0.5 closer to a real Chieri through Chieri, where we can grab additional level 0s, have follow-up turns. Later on in the game, it just gets even crazier because you only ever need 2 Jessicas, right? We're never triple Jessicaing. So because our like final crazy nut board is a maximum of 2 Jessica, we have the ability to throw these away. And even in more normal situations, I think a pretty common play, Paro, that both you and I have had where we've talked about it, where if you free fresh with the early play, you can discard a Jessica in your hand to search a Jessica in your deck to set a target for choice because you're playing 6 choice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a really sick. It's a really sick play.
It feels so strong.
Yeah, this card, like insane toolboxing. The consistency it adds for your 0 to 1 game is something that isn't to be overlooked. Adding that like +4 count when you happen to open this, which is why if you've seen the article from the one guy, which I'll have a link in the description, I should be able to find it again.
Yeah.
Where he talks about that he was playing 4 copies because the games where you open it are dramatically different. But unfortunately, even after testing, it was worse to cut down on any other card to jam 4 of this to see it early, because after you see the first one, the other ones are dead.
I wish you could play 4 copies of this card though. Opening this card every game would be the dankest thing ever.
Yeah, it's like the games where you open this are so radically different from the games that you don't. Not that your sculpting from 0 to 1 is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but like, come on, adding a +4 count. Yeah, it just makes it so you just hit everything you need if this card comes down at 0. As well as being a global 5 for our 3/5s and our Bugen, again, makes it even better into the current field. But yeah, card's super nutty.
Yeah. Something else I like to mention about this card whenever I'm like shilling this deck to people is that it turns your choice triggers from salvage, stock, to you can salvage, you can stock, or you can get a delayed search.
Yeah, that's really good.
You can just Jessica back to hand and then have anything on your next turn.
You like toolboxes you out of deck, which is really nice.
This, honestly, it's like the comfiest thing ever. It feels so good to just always be able to react to the situation that you're put in.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm glad we were right about this one, because this card was like, this and the Jessica finisher were the cards I was most excited for.
I remember people telling us that this card was overrated.
Not overrated, yeah, but
yeah.
In practice, it works out very well. So very
Yeah.
happy. All right, last card at 0 here. D-side is really scuffed for ditch out, so we're going to play one of the best ones that our deck has, which is this guy here. So he can bond to either our level 1 combo or our level 1 Arya that swaps into the Adachi, which also sends a card to memory. So he's a better ditch out than like the Arrow PR, which is like a sack salvage, because you don't have to target weird cards like the Rando deck does. Rando deck does. So because you are only really looking for these, especially in the early game, or these cards are good to pick up whenever, because you can always, loop the Adachi, which is great at bare minimum, or send an Adachi to memory. This card is just a much better ditch out as a one-of than anything else we could play. He also has a nice little high rolly effect where when he triggers a choice in his lane, you can salvage any character, which is kind of cool. I've actually never had that happen with this card.
I have
once.
had that happen one time, except I only had one character in my waiting room. So I basically whiffed the choice trigger and just added it was like a 1-0 or something. He just added it to hand.
Yeah, but
I'm sure it's cool when it goes off.
Yeah, I'm sure it's great if it happens, but there's no really way to set it up or anything, so
yeah,
it's just a nice little upside. Alright, getting into level 1s, we are playing the Arya choice combo. It is during your turn, plus 2k, and then on attack, as long as you have 2 or more other characters, you can check up to 3, add a character, and then you can optionally twin drive, so pay 1 trigger twice. This is really good for pushing additional choice triggers to either generate you additional stock on top of all the stock charging you're already doing, which can get pretty crazy. You're not going to have any issue hitting your Jessica threshold, which is only 7 to do double with a combo like this in the early game, as well as just generally keeping your stock clean, which is always good. So it's just like a Magro that can also keep your stock clean and push for triggers. Always nice. It makes it better on like later decks too, where like triggering choice is really impactful, letting you like early play on second level 2 turns, things like that if you're like going for multiple combos. So that can be pretty nice. But just an overall really nice combo. I think without this card, D-side really lacks for deck speed on first deck, and without it, you'll basically never hit your first deck refresh timing, which, you can come back and say with the Arya EP doesn't matter as much for a set like this, but I still think deck speed is important for any 1k1 deck, and it's just been a better performer than things like the TD Ronda or stuff like that. I don't know if you've had any differing experiences, Pario.
No, I haven't had like any problems with this card. I mean, I don't even really know what to say about it, to be honest.
It's just plug and play.
It just kind of reads like,
it's like, yeah, that's good.
Add a character, trigger twice. We play 6 choices.
The lower power line,
a lot of hand, a lot of stock
in this meta might be something you can say is like bad about it, but because of the Adachi, it doesn't matter at all.
Yes, I have had a few times where I couldn't clear a 1-0 on my opponent's field, actually, because I was playing against all live TDs and I couldn't kill flares.
Oh, because they were too big. Yeah,
they were too big. I had to side with my Arya, but that is so uncommon and niche that it's barely even like a slight against this card. It's still like really good.
Hey, all else fails, side and push for triggers, right?
Yeah.
Something you can do. All right, moving on to other level 1s, couple auxiliary cards here. We're going to play one of this Blind Stalker because we are heavily in green, so we get to run this pretty good card. If you have any card in memory, it's 55 all the time. With our global, that's 6k, climax down 7k, and when we have a climax down, when she gets a reverse, you can Blind Stalk one. So a little bit of extra stock charging. Again, you're stock charging a lot with the Brainstorm, so you think, why would you need this card? But being able to just frivolously spend your stock and still be able to like threaten Jessica is one of the reasons why the deck is so strong, because the strong cards in D-side are costed, right? It's like Arya, like Free Fresh. If you're playing Adachis from hand, you want to like play down errors, Brainstorm, because again, if you have to deck speed, you're going to Brainstorm a lot, and then you want to slam Climax Change, get your stock back. Just being able to have that upper stock threshold is really nice. We have the space, we're in green, so we might as well play it. As well as just, being like a 6k cross turn sometimes, maybe that can be hard for our opponent. Probably not, but maybe.
It does sometimes just live. Like if your opponent had like a bad turn and they don't have like enough level 1s or something, sometimes this card just gets to live a turn because your opponent prioritizes killing Arya.
Well, yeah, they don't want to let you go off again and plus again. They'd rather give you stock. So, yeah, pretty nice card. Because we're in green, we just get to run it. It's a nice little coincidental add we can have. This is definitely a flex spot. You can move it around. I think with 4 arrow Brainstorms, you shouldn't have too much trouble with stock anyway, but it is nice.
I've never closely examined this card's art, and I just want to appreciate that real quick. D-side as a whole having really nice art.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it does.
Card.
All right. All right, the Aria change package. I'm going to read both of these, and then we can talk about them. So when this is played from hand to the stage, as long as you have 2 or fewer cards in memory, you can send the 1/1 Adachi to your memory on play. So it's like a little proactive memory generation. And then at the start of your climax phase, if you have a climax down, you can rest this, send it to memory, pull that 1/1 Adachi that you just sent to memory out onto the field, and then at the beginning of your encore step, you swap them back. So to read the Adachi real quick. So if either the Aria Shrine Girl, which is the 1/0 that we just saw, is in your memory, or the Aki, which we're not playing, it gains 2k in the following ability. When it's played from hand or memory to the stage, choose another character, and that character gains a level for the turn. So basically, when you change, you gain 2k, so you're 6k with climax down, and then you choose a character on the field, and you give it a level. So it's an Adachi that trades with anything all the time, as long as you order your attacks right, so you don't send your opponent over level or something like that. You'll always trade with the card across from you, because it's a stock Adachi. When it comes reverse, level of battle opponent is higher than their current level, send the character to stock, pop their bottom card. So the way that this actually works, right, is you play down the first Aria, you send the 1/1 Adachi to memory, the 1/1 Adachi comes out when you slam climax, they swap, you get all your Eru Brainstorm marker pops to stock, so that you get a bunch of stock for playing an Adachi for free. So you're already playing a 1/1 Adachi for free, which gives a level to your opponent's character, so that always trades. And then after it trades, it swaps back into your memory and pulls out the first Aria rested. So it's an Adachi that doesn't lose its lane, which alone is insane, right? Like an Adachi that doesn't lose lane, like that's like the downside of Adachis. Like that's the bad things. Like you open yourself up to damage. If your opponent can't recover, they have a big damage push on you. Well, you don't care anymore because you're an Adachi that doesn't give up your slot, as well as an Adachi that's generating memory, giving you free stock and other crazy things. I think this is like the most insane thing in the meta right now. Again, especially in the Western JP meta where people are playing a lot of Mushoku and Hololive because it is good deck in both metas that they probably already own in both languages, or are playing in English in like Japanese format events or something at your locals that are mixed. I think this card's going to be like a massive overperformer into that kind of meta, and it's just been absolutely insane.
Yeah, so I actually I've had similar experiences where if you play against Hololive, Mushoku, or like really any deck that ever early plays, they're just not allowed to keep those kinds of cards on field. Even like at level 3, right, when you're doing your Jessica combo, since you're only really doing just 2 Jessicas, you don't need to like give up another lane. You just put this thing out and it kills anything.
Yeah.
And then if you needed to, this thing will also gain you stock from the Eru Brainstorm, which you can, play more of during your Jessica turn because it's pretty hand light. And oh my god, this card, if it wasn't the Brainstorm, I think this card would be the reason to play this deck.
Yeah.
Or the Brainstorm or the back row. The Brainstorm, the back row, and this card feel like the 3 best cards in like
the whole set, honestly. I think those are like the 3 best cards.
Yeah.
The other change package is really good, but I think this one just into generally what you can expect to see, like at your locals, or like if you go to something like a Hotsy Regional or something like that. Like if there was a Hotsy Regional happening tomorrow, I think this would do a lot better than the Arrow Changer, just in general, into most things.
In this deck specifically too, you can't really play the Arrow because of color restriction.
Yeah.
Cool. Good card.
All right, let's move on to some of our mid-game plays. So
our Arias.
This is the Aria early play where every time you read it to your opponent, they go like, is this a custom card? Like, what is that? Is that a real card? So if you have 5 or fewer cards in your deck, you can early play this. If it's in the front row, it's a global 15. And then when you play it, if there are 5 or fewer cards in your deck, again, you can only early play it if there are 5 or fewer cards in your deck. You free fresh and then search a character from your free fresh deck.
Yeah, this is really strong.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. If you have a game where you're rocketed to level 2 on first deck, it makes it so that game doesn't feel like garbage. If you're having a good game and you can extend out the level 2 where you get 2 level 2 turns, you can mill down your deck. Again, if you're like playing the pop back stuff, stock isn't an issue there, and then you can slam this out and then you're on fresh deck and you can play another early play maybe because you're generating a bunch of stock back. It can be just really disgusting like all the time, as well as just being like a global 15 where your mid game otherwise would be pretty small without this card, but this card really helps you out.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Every time I play this card, somebody has something to say about it.
This is
like,
this
oh, that's cool. That's
yeah.
broken. Like,
oh, dude, for sure. Every time I play this, they're like, what? This is the card I think that like pushed me to like get interested in this set. I was like, oh, free fresh, 5 or less free fresh, 2022.
Yeah.
Selective cantrip.
Yeah, I think that's the craziest part. You can grab it, Jessica, ditch a Jessica with your back row,
you
grab
just
a Jessica.
Yeah, just compress 2 on refresh. fuck it, why not?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, card's crazy.
And then your opponent's watching you. Yeah, go search. Okay, search Jessica. Discard. Search. Your opponent's just like, am I playing against the Yu-Gi-Oh deck? What is happening?
Yeah, just like my opponent's been in their deck 3 times this turn. What's going on? They didn't even hit a brainstorm. What's happening? Yeah, card's insane. To support that, we are playing the green early play. The climax combo in our deck is Flavor Text. We are not playing it. 2 or fewer CX early play, so plays well with our free fresh and then just heal. It's just a way in our good games to extend the mid game, and because of the way the Aria works, we basically only sculpt for this card with the Aria. We go and get it, or we like Ditch a Jessica, search it after we free fresh, so that we're just like, oh, okay, this game's going well. I have this Jessica sitting in my hand that I always do, or this extra Jessica sitting in my hand. Ditch it, go search the early play the early play. Okay, so my dead card in hand, or a card that I'll have time to get back if I trigger a choice or something like that, just becomes like a toolbox. Like, okay, we're gonna extend the level 2 now because I'm compressed or something like that, and I'm just gonna heal down and I'm gonna try to grind you out. So it gives you that option to go for that. If you really want to be spicy and you have the PRs, you could play the blue PR in the spot. We're in enough blue, but I think the color just being yellow into green, you'll lose some consistency there. So we just opt to play this one instead, especially because we have the Adachi. We're like not too worried about like contesting opponent power.
Yeah, I was about to mention actually regarding the power. Like, I think at a glance, this card is like, oh god, it's like a 9500 vanilla healer. But honestly, because you're usually going to have the Aria down and the Jessica back row down, this thing is actually just sitting at 11.5, which is like the standard power, I guess, that a level 3 early play would be sitting at anyways.
Yeah,
so you don't really like feel that loss of power.
Yeah, it doesn't come up. It seems like woefully terrible as an early play, but it is relevant. It does come up.
Yeah.
All right, getting into our finishing stuff. The Jessica, the card. It is.
She's got a gun.
She does have a gun. You discard any card, heal to stock, and then climax combo. This activates up to once per turn. At the end of the attack in which the character in your front row center slot attack, if the bar is in your climax zone. This is in the front row, and there are 2 or more other characters in your memory. You may pay for and ditch a card. If you do, perform the following effect 3 times. Deal 1 damage to your opponent. So if you have 2 Jessicas and you're able to get this off, it's 6 pings. That's Kaleidoscope tier levels of damage for ceiling games. So your main line is going to be able to play 2 of these Jessicas. So to play 2, you got to be at least 3/2 or higher after clock and have 7 stock. Because you play down a Jessica, heal to stock, play down a Jessica, heal to stock, play down some character in the center lane. If you're going to play a costed character in the center lane, you increase your threshold by that much. Depending on certain matchups, it might be better to go for single and go for another card that we play as an out, or one of the 2 other cards that we play as an out to like tap counter or something like that. And then when that card attacks, or end of that card's attack, can pay for, ditch 1, burn 1, burn 1, burn 1. If your opponent is like a super sack and cancels 2 of the pings and they're not in definite range, you don't even have to do the second one. You can just say, oh, I'll save my resources, go next. Because you healed down, hopefully, you stabilized yourself. So the combo is like really, really good at finishing games, or just letting you wait by letting you hold off. But usually more often than not, you're going to go for it. Burn 1, burn 1, burn 1, twice is pretty hard for your opponent to cancel.
A lot of damage. Yeah, if your opponent ever hits like 3-4 during the battle phase, the game is basically ended on the spot.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that that's happened.
In matchups where you're not playing around defensive counters, you're usually going to have a costless character, or you're going to swap into Adachi in your center lane. That's the most common case.
Speaking of counters, this card does have a relevant downside that like some English players might not know about. If your center slot leaves the field during its battle, it technically never has an end of attack, and so you don't get to pay cost for this.
Yeah, the way the Hot Seat translation is worded. You have
to be conscious of things.
Yeah, if your opponent has memory kick counter, you gotta win that lane, or you're not gonna get the effect. I know the way that like the way that it's worded makes it seem as if it doesn't matter because of the way the translation goes, but it is susceptible to memory kick counter, anything that makes your card leave field.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. But it is a very, very destructive finisher. So we are also playing a couple cards to make sure that we can not only do our combo, but also play around people's defensive counters. We are playing 1 of the TD Aria. So it is on play, look at top 3, put them back in any order, and then you bounce one of your opponent's characters. So removing a character from the field obviously helps you play around tap counter. And then it also has a nice little combo with the other 2 choices that we play. Barely ever go for this. I've actually never resolved it. I've never even tried to.
Yeah.
But when it attacks, as long as you have 2 or more other characters, you can choose a character. It gets 1,000 power and on cancel burn 2. Not bad if like something like we mill out all our bars or something like that. Something terrible happens and there's just nothing left left in our deck, we can switch into this and at least have some kind of push. But I've never had to do that, even without Climax Swap or other things in the list. It's never come up. So it's just basically a bouncer to help you play around tap counter. To also help you play around tap counter, we play this other level 3. If you have 2 or more other characters, it gains 1k, so it's 10k pretty much all the time. And then on play check X helps us dig into extra cards, maybe helps us dig into a climax or something like that, or maybe dig into our event, which we'll talk about in a second. And then most importantly, when a climax card is played in the climax zone, it gets 2500 power and hexproof. So this is your main way to play around tap counter. It's also a really good way to play around people going for big power because it gets that 2500, so it's like a 13.5, and then with the Jessica back row 14k. It's a lot harder for your opponent to like get around or something like that, as well as, you know, being hexproof, your opponent can't tap it, they can't deny your center lane, so then you only have to side one lane. Your opponent has a full field. You side the first lane, hopefully into a level 2 or a level 1, then get to front with your second Jessica, and then they can't tap the center lane, so you're free from tap counter by that point. I have had to do it in many matchups, especially with the amount of all live and Mishoku, as previously stated. In those matchups, especially, you know, you're trying to hit a big stock threshold, and instead of trying to hit 9 to do the full thing and have all those cards in hand, a lot of the time, with the way those decks work, they're sort of counting on being able to tap counter. So the push from, you know, single Jessica and one of these is sometimes enough to seal the game on its own because you're playing around tap counter already. That really disrupts their strategy because they don't have a lot of sustain outside of that. I don't know what your experience has been, Paro, with stuff like this. I find myself having to switch into this quite a bit, but my meta is very Mushoku and Hololive.
I haven't had to use it to dodge tap counter yet.
Okay.
But I was aware that was like its primary use when I decided to put this card into my deck.
It's been pretty good for me. I've had to use it a lot. So
worst case scenario, man, this is just a top X. It grabs your gold bar. It grabs the next card. Segue.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So this is another big feather in Green's cap here. So this 3-0 event, costless. Use one of the following 3 effects to perform it. Most importantly, search your deck for a climax card. Reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. All of your characters gain a soul. That might help you play around tap counter in some way. If you already have the bar, it might help you give you better sides, give you better numbers. Or you can just salvage a character. So this does a lot of things. If you're already ready to go and you like rip the bar or something like that, or you plan to play the check X or something, it switches into another card or gives you the ability to side in your first lane if you're trying to play around tap counter, which is pretty cool. And most importantly, it makes the sixth choice not matter too much because we're always going to use this to get our bar. So unless we like cancel with both of our bars and we're running 2, so the chances of that happening if our deck is fresh or something like that is fairly low. It's basically an additional 2 bars that we could draw or check X off of our level 3. So outside of the case where we cancel or mill out due to missequencing or something like that, our bars, because we play this, that's about the only fail case to playing 6 choice over the 4 bars. Again, you can just throw the 4 bars in and basically play the list exactly the same. You probably play 2 check X's instead of the bounce, or maybe keep the bounce in, doesn't really matter. But I think with this card in the list, I haven't had a need for climax swap. I haven't had a need to, you know, have anything else for climax assurance outside the check X in this. I've been pretty much able to get into my Jessica every game that I need to, because once this card comes into my hand, like if I get it off a Chiuri or something at any point during the game, it basically never leaves it because it's such a strong toolboxing card. It's like a end game climax combo assistance My Little Shido almost. I guess it's most similar to the on-play effect of the, the Koturi back row, right?
Yeah.
It's just really good at ensuring whatever play you have to do at level 3. Whatever, whatever you end up having to do. Yeah, whatever you have to do, whatever the right decision is, this card helps you make it and make the right one and make sure you can do it. But once you get this card from like level 1 and onwards, it basically never leaves your hand. And it's worth playing the game on 6-card hand to do so. All right.
This card just plays your level 3 for you.
Yeah, basically. All right, here's the whole list laid out again. I don't really have any additional comments, Paro, do you? I think this deck's pretty sick.
My only comment about this is that I've actually switched the ratio of Adachi to Adachi Changer just to have 1-0 in my hand more often. I don't think it's like a huge thing that's gonna like totally just mess up the flow of the deck or anything, or like totally change the experience. It was just like a little preference thing.
Yeah, I've always been on the other end because I want the 1-1 to be in grave all the time because of D-Side's lack of ditch outs. So I want to be able to like see it and clock it. Or
I felt like I had the 1-1 in my hand every game when I played 3, like just multiples of the 1-1 one in my hand.
Well, it's not
It's
as
a god.
bad in your hand as another card, right? It's at least still an Adachi. But, you know, I feel that. I was on the previous split. I actually switched back. I haven't switched off 2-3 since I switched to it, but I'm more of a card doesn't show up in grave enough kind of end of it. But I think the other end is also very valid.
This deck's hype. I've been like playing D-side almost exclusively since it came out, and I've been having a ton of fun.
Every time I play the Jessica shell, no matter if I was playing just choice bar or the 6-choice 2-bar, it's super sick. I have so much fun. And every time I play the rando deck, I want to neck myself because I have to play so many terrible cards like Aki. I'm
Yeah,
on
Aki really holds that deck back.
I'm on record as saying, like, I think Aki's the closest thing in like Weiss I've ever played to a Garnet, where you just draw it and it's dead. If you don't play Yu-Gi-Oh, like a Garnet's like a card that you have to play but you don't want to draw because it's just like dead. And I feel like Aki in the early game is so fucking dead, but you have to play 4 of it, and you don't have good hand filters, so like it just feels even worse. Like I hate that card so much. But maybe that's why I'm so biased towards the Jessica deck. But I did want to share it because I feel like not a lot of people are talking about the Jessica focus deck at all, because they're all like, oh my god, rando level 2 climax combo. It's like Simple Gear, go, pay 1 heal. And that's the only thing people are talking about with D-side. But D-side's like such a cool big set, and there's so much more you can do with it. So Pario and I wanted to make sure we highlighted this.
Oh yeah, dude.
All right, last slide. Like always, card game competitive. We don't own or operate them, but we are in them. Definitely give those a look if you want to talk about Weiss. Just join up with people and talk about the game and your shared interest, or maybe catch some webcam or Weiss Fight games. Global and NA, those are the buy-sell trade hubs for the community. If you're looking to pick up cards from other players or from other stores that post there, definitely give those a look. There are also translations for new upcoming JP sets posted to the Facebook groups daily when they are released in Japan. They're translated by a community. Those are also compiled into the Discords and Card of the Day channels that are also managed by a community. So you can get that no matter what social media you prefer. Then, of course, Weiss Fight. If you are looking to play D-side, you don't have your cards, you're still putting things together, you can't find everything you need, and you're still waiting for cards to come in, you can grab our Encore Decks link in the description, hop over to Weiss Fight, plug in the link, and you are playing Weiss in your browser with people all over the world for free, nothing to install, no TTS to manage or anything like that, just right in your browser, just like Dueling Book or something like that. Paru, you got any shout-outs before we get out of here?
Let me think. No, I don't have any shout-outs today, but thank you for asking, Carl.
All right, and with that, Pittsburgh Wayne Schwartz signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.